Let's take a look at what's new in the latest Visual Studio Code release for March 2022, aka version 1.66. First up, we have local history. Keep track of local file changes independent of source control. Let's read more about that. Local history of files is now available in the timeline view. Depending on the configured settings, every time you save an editor, a new entry is added to the list. Here's your timeline on the left-hand side, and then you can step through things. Let's try this out. Okay, I have VS Code open to a project now. Okay, so normally you might find it in your Explorer view as a collapsible section, but in this case, I want to move it over to the side to just get a better view and then hide my Explorer. So if I make some change, right now, what I'm seeing in the timeline is all my like commit changes over time. 3 years ago, 9 months ago, I did this to this file, right? But maybe I wanted to add a comment now. Do that, console.log app server, I don't know. Whatever, right? Just making up some code. Now we can see some different changes going on here. Files saved, and the difference between that is nothing. So with this little filter icon, I can choose to show both Git history and local history. So get rid of the Git history and just look at file local history. Okay, so now we can start looking at, here's the original, most recent one. This is the current status one. This was what I added 30 seconds ago, and this is what I added a minute ago. So that's pretty cool. I like that. I like that a lot. So let's say we're in a long coding session for a few hours. You get into that flow state and you need to jump back to what you did maybe 20 minutes ago or something like that. What changed in that file? If you made that many changes and you lost your place, you have this local history in your timeline view of VS Code. Excellent feature. All right, so that was local history. Settings editor, language filter displays available language specific setting. All right, let's check it out. Users can now type @lang:language ID in the settings editor search box to view and edit all settings that can be configured for the language with language ID. This way, users can view language specific settings, also known as language overrides. So note that these overrides remain configured until explicitly reset by clicking in the gear icon and resetting the setting. The short video below has the language filter set to @lang:CSS to display all possible CSS language override settings. Okay, that's nice. I personally don't have like a whole lot of use cases, I think, right now that off the top of my head, but I think it's beneficial to have that level of granularity in my settings for language specific settings. That's nice. Good stuff. Next up, we have terminal find improvements. Matches are highlighted in the terminal panel and scroll bar. That is particularly helpful, I think. Yeah, look at that. When searching in the terminal, all instances of the search term will now be highlighted. Yes, thank you very much. The currently selected match also has a specific highlight, which can be customized separately. Oh, okay. So you can make it like yellow square, red square. That's cool. You can fine tune the appearance of highlight colors via the color customizations prefix by terminal.findMatch. That's a setting that you can look up in the settings then, huh? Cool. All right, let's try that out. Something that I often do is I'll be like ps aux, and I want to know all the node processes that might be running on my machine. Usually do this on Unix-based systems. I have nothing running on that, but if I search for node, it's highlighting it now. That's pretty cool. If I search for like dev, I jump around between each one. That is cool. I like that. I think their example that they show is a little better demonstration. There's also scroll bar annotations that go along with those search results. So you can see those little color boxes in the scroll bar there. That's indicating where each match of the search term is found within the field of view in your terminal. That's nice. That's helpful too. Good to see these improvements. All right, another one I want to look at here is JavaScript heap profiles. Collect and view JavaScript memory allocations while debugging. We've seen some of this in the past. It looks like this is continuing to improve and iterate on these heat map capabilities. I'm really excited about this because it's super helpful to take these profiles of your projects that are running while you're debugging it, and you can find the hotspots, the parts of your code that are taking the longest to run, identify them, and see of ways that you can maybe improve the speed of them and how quickly they execute. So the JavaScript debugger now supports collecting and visualizing heap profiles. Heap profiles allow you to see where and how much memory is allocated over time. These have been added as an option in the debug take performance profile command, which is also accessible via a record button in the call stack view. A very key thing to call out there. So yeah, this is something that I think was in the preview JavaScript debugger. You had to enable that separately, but now it's built in, it seems, which is nice to see. I don't think I need to demonstrate that. You kind of get the idea of the picture here. Okay, so correction here. In the past, we've seen profiles of how much CPU utilization is going on. In this case, we get to see how much memory utilization is being used and allocated over time when running your application. So that's nice. That's a cool difference and addition we see now to the JavaScript debugger. So yes, now we have heap profile to get an idea of the memory allocation that's used being consumed over time while running our application. Quick note, if you want to see the visualizations directly in Visual Studio Code for these heap profiles or even the CPU profiles that you might take through the JavaScript debugger, you're going to need this added extension from Microsoft, which is called the Flame Chart Visualizer for JavaScript profiles. That is available through the extension marketplace. You'll be prompted if you try to click on the flame graph icon for any profiles that you might take and record, which is this icon right here. It will prompt you to install that extension so that you can see it. And here you go. Here's the example of it. New names for side panel and sidebar. Uh-oh. What? We've decided to update the naming of both the sidebar and side panel. The sidebar will now be referred to as the primary sidebar, which is where all this is going on here, right? In the UI, while the side panel will now be referred to as the secondary sidebar. By that, they mean like if I wanted to bring up the bottom panel and I wanted to move the debug console to the side panel. So that's good to know. Secondary sidebar, primary sidebar. So wherever, all right, here's note to self and everybody else. Wherever your activity bar, which is where all the icons are to do file explorer, search, debugging, run and debug, source control, that kind of stuff. That's your activity bar. And whatever side the activity bar is on, that's where your primary sidebar is. Okay. The other one is your secondary sidebar, which was previously known as the side panel. Cool. Good to know. The editor quick suggestions setting now accepts inline as configuration value. Okay, when it's set to inline, quick suggestions, aka IntelliSense, does not display the suggestions widget when you type, but shows completions as ghosted text. What does that mean? Let's see. Like that. I like that a lot, actually. I personally like this better. If you look at this animated GIF this recording that they provided, instead of the pop-up that shows up usually, it's like a big window, tooltip type of window, similar to this one that you see over the cursor, but it's usually much larger and it gets in the way quite a bit. So I kind of like this inline option. I might switch to that. Okay, another one that didn't get highlighted in the top portion of the release notes is bracket pair colorization. This is something that has been built in natively a couple of releases ago. Instead of having to use the extension, you can now just turn this on natively in Visual Studio Code. What's been added here, it looks like, is now instead of having the bracket pair colorization kind of be the same color for most brackets here, instead you can give them independent colors, which is the bottom half here, the bottom image that you see here. And that's on by default. Okay, so if you want them to stay the same, then you have to change this to true. Okay, good to know. So I already got it. Great. All right, so I think that's about it that I want to highlight that kind of stood out to me in the latest release of Visual Studio Code. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found some value in this. If you did, be sure to like and subscribe for more videos like this on the channel. Thank you so much for watching this far. I hope you have a good rest of your day wherever you are, and happy coding.